My beloved child, do not leave yet. Do not scroll away. Do not dismiss this moment as just another message appearing before your eyes. Listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you is the very answer you have been asking me for. You have spent countless days searching for confirmation. You have whispered prayers in moments when no one else was around. You have asked me questions that only heaven could answer. You have wondered if I was listening. You have wondered if I still saw you. You have wondered if I remembered the promises that I placed within your heart. And today, I want you to know this with certainty. I have heard every word. Nothing about this moment is accidental. You may think you clicked on this message by chance. You may think this is just another video among thousands. But I tell you, my child, there is a reason you are here right now. There is a reason these words found you at this exact moment in your life. I brought you here. Before this day began, I already knew you would be listening. Before you spoke your latest prayer, I already knew the burden you were carrying. Before the tears fell from your eyes, I had already seen them. I know what has been weighing on your heart. I know about the unanswered questions. I know about the disappointment you have tried to hide. I know about the nights when sleep would not come, because your mind was filled with fear, uncertainty, and exhaustion. And I know how many times you asked me for a sign. You said, "Lord, if you are still with me, show me." You said, "Lord, if you have not forgotten me, give me confirmation." You said, "Lord, if you are working behind the scenes, help me see it." My beloved child, this is your confirmation. Do not let doubt steal this moment from you. Do not allow the voice of fear to convince you that these words are meant for someone else. They are not. I am speaking directly to your heart because you have reached a place where you need to hear the truth. The truth is that I have never abandoned you, not for one day, not for 1 hour, not for one moment. Even when you felt alone, I was with you. Even when the path grew dark, I was guiding you. Even when you believed nothing was changing, I was working in ways you could not yet see. There are things happening beyond your vision right now. There are prayers already being answered that have not yet appeared in your circumstances. There are doors beginning to move that you thought would remain closed forever. But before I reveal what I have been doing, there is something you must understand. The season you have been walking through was not meaningless. The waiting was not wasted. The pain was not without purpose. And before this message ends, I will show you why everything had to happen exactly the way it did. So stay with me. Listen closely, because what I am about to reveal may change the way you see your entire journey. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your understanding. My beloved child, before I speak to you about where you are going, I need you to understand something about where you have been. I saw the tears you never showed anyone. I saw the tears that fell after you told everyone you were fine. I saw the tears that came when the room was quiet and there was no one left to impress, no one left to convince, and no strength left to pretend. You may have hidden your pain from the people around you, but you never hid it from me. I saw every moment. I saw the nights when you stared at the ceiling, replaying conversations in your mind, wondering if you had made the wrong choices. I saw the mornings when you woke up already tired because your heart had been carrying burdens far too heavy for one person to bear. I saw the silent battles that nobody knew about, the fears you never spoke aloud, the questions you were afraid to ask, the disappointments you kept locked inside because you did not want anyone to see how deeply they hurt. And through every one of those moments, I remained beside you, even when you could not feel my presence, even when you thought heaven was silent, even when you wondered whether your prayers were reaching me at all. I was there. I heard every whispered prayer. I heard the ones spoken through tears. I heard the ones spoken through frustration. I even heard the prayers you never finished because your heart was too exhausted to find the words. Nothing escaped my attention. Not one sigh, not one tear, not one cry for help. You asked, "Lord, do you see what I'm going through?" And today I answer you clearly. Yes, my child, I see everything. I see the disappointment that still lingers from what did not work out. I see the wounds left behind by people you trusted. I see the loneliness that sometimes follows you even when you are surrounded by others. I see the uncertainty about your future. I see the burden you carry when you wonder how things will ever change. I see it all, and I need you to understand this truth. The fact that you suffered does not mean I abandoned you. The fact that you struggled does not mean I stopped caring. The fact that you waited does not mean I forgot my promises. Many times you interpreted my silence as distance. But my silence was never distance. I was closer than your next breath. While you were crying, I was holding you. While you were questioning, I was sustaining you. While you were struggling to keep going, I was providing strength that you did not even realize was coming from me. Think about all the moments when you felt like giving up, yet somehow found the courage to keep moving forward. That strength was not an accident. That strength came from me. Think about the days when you believed you could not endure another disappointment, yet you made it through. That endurance came from me. Think about the times when peace suddenly appeared in the middle of chaos. That peace came from me. I was working in your life even when you could not recognize my hand, my beloved child. I know there were moments when you felt forgotten, moments when you compared your journey to others and wondered why their lives seemed to move forward while yours appeared stuck. Moments when you asked, Lord, when will it be my turn? I heard those questions too, and I have not ignored them. In fact, the answer to those questions is one of the reasons I brought you here today. Because there is something you still cannot see. There is a reason the journey unfolded the way it did. There is a reason certain doors remained closed. There is a reason certain prayers took longer than you expected. And what I am about to reveal may completely change the way you look at your waiting. Because what you thought was delay was never the real story. There was something much greater happening behind the scenes all along. My beloved child, I know how often you have asked the same question. Lord, why is it taking so long? You have asked it during sleepless nights. You have asked it through tears. You have asked it while watching others receive the very things you have been praying for. And if you are honest, there were moments when the waiting became harder than the struggle itself. You could endure difficulties if you knew exactly when they would end. You could face challenges if you knew exactly when the answer would arrive. But uncertainty has a way of testing the human heart. You began to wonder whether I had forgotten you. You began to question whether your prayers were making any difference. You began to fear that perhaps the promises you carried were never meant for you at all. But hear me carefully, my child. The delay was never the problem. The problem was what the enemy tried to convince you the delay meant. The enemy wanted you to believe the waiting meant abandonment. The enemy wanted you to believe the silence meant absence. The enemy wanted you to believe the delay meant denial. But none of those things were true. I was never absent. I was never indifferent. I was never ignoring your prayers. While you were waiting, I was working. While you were questioning, I was preparing. While you were struggling to understand, I was arranging things beyond your ability to see. My child, there are blessings that require preparation before they can be received. There are answers that require foundations before they can be sustained. There are promises that must arrive at the right moment, not merely the earliest moment. If I had given you everything when you first asked, you might not have been ready for it. You would have celebrated the blessing but struggled to carry its weight. You would have received the opportunity but lacked the wisdom to sustain it. You would have entered the season without the strength required to thrive within it. So while you were praying for immediate answers, I was preparing lasting ones. You measured the waiting by days and months. I measured it by purpose. You counted the time. I counted the growth. You looked at what had not happened yet. I looked at who you were becoming. Do you not see, my child? The waiting changed you. The difficult seasons deepened your faith. The uncertainty taught you to trust me when circumstances offered no reassurance. The struggles developed strength that comfort never could. You may not have enjoyed the process, but the process was producing something valuable within you. Every challenge taught you endurance. Every setback taught you perseverance. Every disappointment taught you to rely on me instead of temporary things. What felt like delay was often development. What felt like silence was often preparation. What felt like standing still was often growth taking place beneath the surface. Think of a seed buried deep in the ground. To the human eye, nothing appears to be happening. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes even months pass. Yet beneath the soil, roots are growing, strength is forming, life is developing. The unseen work is preparing for the visible breakthrough, and that is exactly what has been happening in your life. You saw the surface. I saw the roots. You saw the waiting. I saw the preparation. You saw the delay. I saw the becoming. My beloved child, stop believing that nothing happened simply because you could not see it. Some of my greatest works begin in hidden places. Some of my greatest miracles begin long before anyone notices them. Even now, there are answers moving toward you. Even now, there are circumstances being aligned. Even now, there are doors being prepared that are not yet visible. This is why I tell you not to lose heart. Do not judge your future by your current circumstances. Do not measure my faithfulness by what you can see today. Trust that I am working even when the evidence seems hidden, because the waiting season is not the end of your story. In fact, there is something even more important you must understand. Many of the things you believed were delays were actually my protection. Many of the doors you wanted opened were never meant to become part of your future. And once you understand this truth, you will begin to see your entire journey differently. For what you called rejection was often one of the greatest acts of love I ever showed you. My beloved child, I know there are still moments when your heart returns to what was lost. You revisit old memories. You replay old conversations. You imagine how different life might have been if certain doors had remained open. Sometimes you still wonder whether things could have worked out if only one detail had changed. But hear me clearly. You are looking backward with limited understanding, while I have always been looking forward with perfect vision. You see one chapter. I see the entire story. There were times when you stood before a closed door and interpreted it as failure. You believed your dreams had been shattered. You thought your future was slipping away. Yet what you could not see was that beyond that closed door was a path that would have taken you away from the purpose I created for you. My child, not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every invitation is a blessing. Not every open door comes from me. This is why I ask you to trust my wisdom, even when you cannot understand my decisions. There were moments when my protection felt like disappointment. There were moments when my guidance felt like loss. There were moments when my love felt like silence. But love does not always look the way you expect. A loving father does not give his child everything the child asks for. A loving father gives what is needed at the right time. There are things you once prayed for that you would no longer ask for today because now you see what I saw then. There are people you once begged to keep who would have brought pain into your future. There are situations you once chased that would have drained your peace and distracted you from your purpose. You did not know it then, but I knew, and because I knew, I intervened. Even when you misunderstood me, even when you questioned me, even when you felt hurt by my answer, I remained faithful. My beloved child, faith is not only trusting me when doors open, faith is trusting me when doors close. Faith is believing that my hand is still working even when you cannot see immediate evidence. Faith is knowing that my plans for you are greater than the plans you create for yourself. The enemy wanted you to interpret every disappointment as proof that I had abandoned you, but the truth is exactly the opposite. Many of the things that disappointed you were actually evidence that I was protecting you. I was steering you. I was preserving you. I was positioning you. You thought your story was falling apart. I was putting it together. You thought everything was moving in the wrong direction. I was guiding you toward the right destination. You thought you were losing ground. I was establishing a stronger foundation. And now I need you to stop carrying the weight of what could have been. Release it. The opportunity that never happened. Release it. The relationship that did not last. Release it. The dream that unfolded differently than expected. Release it. Do not continue mourning what I have already redeemed. Do not stay attached to seasons that have already ended. I am not calling you backward. I am calling you forward. The future I have prepared cannot be fully embraced while your heart remains trapped in yesterday. My child, there are blessings ahead that require open hands. There are opportunities ahead that require renewed faith. There are answers ahead that require you to trust me more deeply than before. And this is why I have been speaking to your heart today. Because I do not want you to keep looking at closed doors. I want you to start looking at the doors I am preparing to open. What happened was not the end. What you lost was not the final chapter. What disappointed you was not the conclusion of your story. In fact, what I have been doing behind the scenes during this entire season is far greater than you realize. And in the next part, I will show you why your waiting was never empty, why your silence was never meaningless, and why heaven was moving, even when you thought nothing was happening at all. My beloved child, there is something I need you to understand about the season you have just walked through. You thought nothing was happening. You looked around and saw no visible change. You prayed, but the circumstances remained the same. You waited, but the answer seemed delayed. You hoped, but the breakthrough did not appear. And because you could not see movement, you assumed there was none. But my child, some of my greatest works happen where human eyes cannot see. While you were waiting, I was moving. While you were wondering whether I heard you, I was arranging details. While you were questioning the delay, I was preparing the answer. While you were looking for evidence, I was creating it. You judged your situation by what was visible. I was working in the invisible. There were conversations happening that you knew nothing about. There were opportunities developing beyond your sight. There were hearts being changed. There were circumstances being shifted. There were doors being prepared. There were obstacles being removed. And through it all, my hand was moving. My beloved child, think about how many times in your life I have already done this. There were moments when you thought a situation would never change, yet suddenly everything shifted. A door opened, an opportunity appeared, a solution emerged. And you realized later that I had been working long before you saw the result. The visible breakthrough was only the final chapter. The real work had begun much earlier. The same is true now. You see the present moment. I see the entire process. You see what has not happened yet. I see everything that is already in motion. Do not mistake silence for inactivity. Do not mistake waiting for abandonment. Do not mistake hidden work for no work. The roots of a tree grow long before the fruit appears. The foundation of a building is laid long before the structure rises. The dawn begins before the sun becomes visible. And many of my answers begin long before you recognize them. Even now there are things moving in your favor. Even now there are circumstances aligning. Even now there are answers closer than you realize. The enemy wants you to focus on what you do not have. I want you to remember what I am doing. The enemy wants you to believe the story is over. I want you to understand that the story is still unfolding. My child, you have spent too much time interpreting temporary situations as permanent realities. A closed door is not the end. A difficult season is not the end. A delayed answer is not the end. I am still writing the story, and I have not reached the final chapter. Many times, when you felt most discouraged, you were actually closer to your breakthrough than you realized. When you felt like quitting, the answer was already forming. When you felt forgotten, I was already moving. When you thought nothing was changing, heaven was already at work. That is why I tell you now, do not lose heart. Do not allow fear to define what I have not finished. Do not allow doubt to rewrite what I have promised. Trust me in the unseen places. Trust me in the silent seasons. Trust me when progress is hidden, because my faithfulness is not dependent on your ability to see what I am doing. I remain faithful whether you see the movement or not. And one day, you will look back on this season and realize that I was working every single moment. You will see connections you cannot yet see. You will understand reasons you do not yet understand. You will recognize that what appeared to be stillness was actually preparation. But there is something even more important you must know. The reason the battle became so intense recently was not because you were losing ground. The reason the pressure increased was not because I had abandoned you. The reason discouragement attacked your mind so fiercely was because something significant was drawing near. And in the next part, I will reveal why the enemy fought so hard to convince you to give up right now. My beloved child, there is a reason the battle became so intense. There is a reason the doubts grew louder. There is a reason the pressure seemed heavier than before. There is a reason you felt exhausted in ways you could not explain. It was not because I had abandoned you. It was not because your prayers had failed. It was not because your future had disappeared. The enemy was fighting so hard because he recognized something you could not yet see. He recognized that you were closer than ever, closer to your breakthrough, closer to your answer, closer to your new season. And that is why he worked tirelessly to convince you to quit. Think about it, my child. Why would the enemy spend so much effort attacking a person with no purpose? Why would he fight so fiercely against someone with no future? Why would he invest so much energy into discouraging you if there were nothing ahead worth stopping? The intensity of the battle was never proof that I had left you. In many ways, it was evidence that something significant was approaching. The enemy saw your potential. He saw your growth. He saw the strength that had been developing inside you. He saw the blessing drawing near, and he wanted to stop you before you arrived. That is why fear suddenly became louder. That is why discouragement seemed stronger. That is why old wounds resurfaced. That is why negative thoughts tried to dominate your mind. The enemy knew that if he could not destroy your future, he would try to destroy your confidence. If he could not stop the blessing, he would try to convince you to walk away from it. If he could not block the door, he would try to make you too discouraged to walk through it. My child, how many times did you almost give up? How many times did you say, I can't do this anymore? How many times did you wonder if holding on was even worth it? Yet somehow you continued. Somehow you took another step. Somehow you kept praying. Somehow you kept believing. Do you know why? Because I was sustaining you. When your strength was running out, my strength was carrying you. When your faith felt weak, my hand was holding you. When your hope was fading, my spirit was whispering to your heart not to quit. You thought you were surviving by your own determination, but I was supporting you every step of the way. My beloved child, the enemy wanted you to interpret your struggle incorrectly. He wanted you to believe that resistance meant failure, but resistance often means progress. A storm does not appear because a ship is standing still. Resistance is often strongest when movement is taking place. The enemy attacks most fiercely when he senses that change is near. That is why some of your hardest moments came right before important breakthroughs. That is why some of your greatest struggles appeared just before new opportunities emerged. That is why some of your darkest nights happened before the dawn began to break. Do not misunderstand what you have been experiencing. The battle is not proof that you are losing. The battle is proof that you are moving. The pressure is not proof that I have forgotten you. The pressure is proof that transformation is taking place. You are not the same person you were when this journey began. You are stronger, wiser, more discerning, more dependent on me. The very season that tried to break you has been building you. The very trial that seemed unbearable has been preparing you. The very struggle that made you question everything has been producing strength you will need in the season ahead. And now I need you to do something important. Refuse to surrender your faith in the final moments of the process. Do not abandon the journey because the road became difficult. Do not release the promise because the waiting became uncomfortable. Do not walk away now. You have come too far. You have endured too much. You have grown too much. You have survived too much. The enemy wants you focused on your exhaustion. I want you focused on my faithfulness. The enemy wants you focused on your obstacles. I want you focused on my promises. The enemy wants you to believe the story is ending in defeat. But I am telling you that a new chapter is already beginning. In fact, there are signs of movement around you right now that you may not even recognize. Small changes, unexpected peace, new opportunities, subtle shifts, pieces moving into place. And in the next part, I will show you why the shift has already begun, even though you may not fully see it yet. My beloved child, after everything you have been through, there is something I want you to hear with an open heart. The shift has already begun. You may not fully see it yet. You may not have all the evidence you are looking for. You may still be waiting for the breakthrough to become visible. But that does not change the truth. The shift has already begun. Many people believe change starts when circumstances suddenly improve. They believe transformation begins when the door opens, when the prayer is answered, or when the miracle arrives. But, my child, the greatest shifts often begin long before they become visible. The shift begins in the heart. The shift begins in the mind. The shift begins in the spirit. And if you look carefully, you may already see signs that something is different. The fear that once controlled you does not have the same power anymore. The disappointment that once overwhelmed you no longer defines every thought. The anxiety that once kept you awake has started to lose its grip. You are not where you want to be yet, but you are no longer where you used to be. That is evidence of my work. You have grown stronger than you realize. You have survived things that once would have broken you. You have endured seasons that should have destroyed your hope. Yet here you are, still standing, still believing, still listening for my voice. That is not weakness. That is transformation. My beloved child, sometimes people become so focused on the destination that they fail to recognize the progress already taking place. You have been asking me for a breakthrough, but part of that breakthrough has already happened within you. You have developed patience. You have developed wisdom. You have developed discernment. You have learned to depend on me in ways you never did before, and these changes are preparing you for what comes next. Because the blessing I have prepared requires the version of you that exists today, not the version that existed at the beginning of this journey. The waiting changed you. The process matured you. The struggle strengthened you. Nothing was wasted. Not one prayer, not one tear, not one moment of faith. I have been using it all. Even now, there are signs around you that my hand is moving. Perhaps it is a new opportunity beginning to appear. Perhaps it is a conversation that happened unexpectedly. Perhaps it is a sense of peace you cannot explain. Perhaps it is a burden that suddenly feels lighter. Perhaps it is a door that seemed impossible beginning to crack open. Do not ignore these signs. Do not dismiss them because they appear small. Great transformations often begin with small movements. A sunrise begins with a single ray of light. A harvest begins with a single seed. A breakthrough often begins with one small shift that seems insignificant at first. But that small shift grows. That movement expands. That answer develops. And before long, what once seemed impossible becomes reality. My child, I know you are eager to see everything happen at once. But trust my timing. Trust my process. Trust my wisdom. I do not rush what needs to mature. I do not force what needs to develop. I do not release what is not yet ready. Everything I do is intentional. Everything I do has purpose. Everything I do is guided by love. That is why I am asking you to pay attention. Not to your fears. Not to your doubts. Not to the voices telling you that nothing is changing. Pay attention to my faithfulness. Pay attention to the small evidences of grace around you. Pay attention to the ways I have already carried you farther than you thought possible. And right now, my child, I want you to make a declaration of faith. Type in the comments, I receive your peace. Not because everything is perfect, not because every answer has arrived, but because you trust that I am still working, because you trust that I am still leading, because you trust that the shift has already begun. And while what I am doing now is beautiful, there is something even greater ahead. For I am not only changing your circumstances, I am preparing to restore things you thought were lost forever. Dreams, hope, joy, purpose, things you believed would never return. And in the next part, I will show you why what seemed lost was never beyond my ability to restore. My beloved child, there are some things you stopped praying for, not because you no longer wanted them, not because they no longer mattered, but because after waiting for so long you convinced yourself they would never happen. You buried certain dreams. You lowered certain expectations. You told yourself it was easier not to hope than to risk disappointment again. I understand why. You have carried enough heartbreak to make anyone cautious. You have experienced enough delays to make anyone question what is possible. You have faced enough uncertainty to make anyone wonder whether restoration could ever come. But I want you to hear me clearly today. I am still the God of restoration. I have not lost my ability to rebuild. I have not lost my ability to heal. I have not lost my ability to redeem what appears broken. There are things you believed were gone forever. Joy that faded. Confidence that weakened. Dreams that seemed to die. Hope that slowly disappeared under the weight of disappointment. But what appears impossible to you has never been impossible to me. My child, restoration does not always mean returning things exactly as they were. Many times, my restoration is greater than replacement. I do not merely restore the past. I create a future that carries the wisdom of everything you have learned. What you lost may not return in the same form. But what I bring can be far greater than what was taken away. You may have lost opportunities, but I can create new opportunities. You may have lost relationships, but I can bring healthier connections. You may have lost confidence, but I can build deeper strength. You may have lost peace, but I can fill your heart with peace that circumstances cannot steal. Do not limit my restoration to your imagination. Too often, you expect me to rebuild exactly what existed before, but I see possibilities far beyond what you can envision. I see blessings that have not yet entered your mind. I see answers you have not yet considered. I see doors you do not yet know exist. My beloved child, one of the enemy's greatest lies is convincing people that their best days are behind them. He wants you to believe that you missed your chance, that you waited too long, that you failed too many times, that too much damage has been done. But that is not the truth. The truth is that I specialize in bringing life to places that seem hopeless. I specialize in creating beauty from brokenness. I specialize in writing new chapters where people expected the story to end. Look at your own life. There were seasons you never thought you would survive, yet you did. There were moments you thought would destroy you, yet you are still here. There were disappointments you thought would define your future, yet you continued moving forward. That was my grace sustaining you. And the same grace that carried you through those seasons is carrying you now. My child, I know there are still wounds that need healing. I know there are still questions without answers. I know there are still moments when doubt tries to creep into your heart, but do not allow temporary emotions to speak louder than my promises. Your story is not over. Your purpose is not finished. Your future is not lost. There is still more ahead. There is still joy to experience. There is still purpose to fulfill. There are still blessings to receive. And there are still prayers that will be answered in ways you cannot yet imagine. What you thought was buried forever is not beyond my reach. What you thought was lost forever is not beyond my power. What you thought was finished forever is not beyond my ability to restore. So lift your eyes again, hope again, believe again, trust again, not because circumstances have already changed, but because I have not changed. I am the same God who carried you through every previous season, the same God who protected you, the same God who strengthened you, the same God who sustained you, and now I am leading you into a season where many things will finally begin to make sense. You will start to see connections you once missed. You will start to understand why certain prayers were delayed. You will start to recognize how my hand was guiding you all along, and most importantly, you will receive confirmation that I never forgot you. In fact, that confirmation is closer than you realize. Because in the next part, I want to speak directly to your heart and remind you of a truth that heaven has been declaring over your life from the very beginning. This is your confirmation. My beloved child, after everything I have spoken to you today, I want you to pause for a moment and listen carefully. This is your confirmation. Not because everything has already happened, not because every prayer has already been answered, not because every door has already opened, but because I want you to remember something that fear has tried to make you forget. I have not forgotten you. Not for a single day, not for a single moment, not for a single prayer. Every tear you cried mattered. Every prayer you whispered was heard. Every moment you chose faith over despair was seen. You may have felt unnoticed. You may have felt overlooked. You may have felt like your story was moving more slowly than everyone else's. But I have been watching over you through it all. I saw the nights when you almost gave up. I saw the mornings when you had to force yourself to keep moving. I saw the moments when doubt filled your mind. And I saw the moments when you chose to trust me anyway. My child, that faith was never wasted. Your prayers were never wasted. Your waiting was never wasted. Even the seasons you did not understand were accomplishing something greater than you realized. That is why I brought you here today. Not to give you false hope, not to promise a life without challenges, but to remind you that I am still with you. I am still leading you. I am still working. The same hand that carried you through yesterday is carrying you today. The same voice that guided you before is guiding you now. The same love that sustained you in your darkest season remains with you in this moment. So when fear tells you that nothing is changing, remember my words. When doubt tells you that your prayers are pointless, remember my words. When disappointment tries to convince you that your future is limited by your present circumstances, remember my words. I am not finished. The story is not over. The promise is still alive. My beloved child, receive this confirmation in your heart today. I see you. I hear you. I know what you have been carrying. I know where you have been, and I know where I am leading you. Trust me a little longer. Hold on a little longer. Believe a little longer, because what I have been preparing is closer than you think. And now, before this message ends, there is one final truth I need you to hear. The season you have been living through is not your destination. A new season is beginning, and it is time for you to step forward with faith instead of fear. My beloved child, as this message comes to a close, I want you to remember one final truth. The season you have been living through is not your permanent home. It was a chapter, it was a process, it was a preparation, but it was never your final destination. For too long, you have looked at your circumstances and assumed they would never change. You looked at the waiting and believed it would last forever. You looked at the struggle and wondered if it would always be this way. But I tell you now, a new season is beginning. Not because everything around you has suddenly changed, but because I have been preparing you for what comes next. The person who began this journey is not the same person listening to these words today. You have grown stronger. You have grown wiser. You have learned to trust me in ways you never did before, and that growth has prepared you for the season ahead. My child, do not carry the mindset of the old season into the new one. Do not carry yesterday's fears into tomorrow's opportunities. Do not carry old disappointments into the future I am creating for you. Release them. Leave them in my hands. The waiting season taught you valuable lessons, but it was never meant to become your identity. Your identity is not found in your struggle. Your identity is not found in your disappointment. Your identity is found in me. You are loved. You are seen. You are known. You are guided. And you are not walking into the future alone. I am walking with you. Even now, doors are being prepared. Even now, opportunities are forming. Even now, answers are moving closer. You may not see the full picture yet, but you do not need to. You only need to trust the one who does. One day you will look back on this season and understand what you cannot fully understand today. You will see how I protected you. You will see how I strengthened you. You will see how I carried you through moments when you thought you could not continue. And you will realize that my hand was present through every chapter of your story. So lift your head. Strengthen your faith. Take the next step. The past season is behind you. The new season is before you. And what lies ahead is greater than the fears you leave behind. Trust me. Stay close to me. Keep moving forward. For I am not finished with your story. In many ways, it is only just beginning. My beloved child, if this message has spoken to your heart today, I want you to take a moment and make a simple declaration of faith. Type Amen in the comments if you believe that God is still working in your life. Type, I trust your timing if you are choosing faith over fear today. And if you know someone who is struggling, waiting, or searching for confirmation, share this message with them. It may be the encouragement they have been praying for. Never forget, I see you. I hear you. I know what you are carrying, and I have not forgotten you. The waiting is not wasted. The story is not over. The promise is still alive. Stay close to me. Keep trusting me. Keep moving forward. Because the season ahead is greater than the season behind. May God's peace, strength, and favor be with you always. Amen.